is up, everybody? We have a fantastic show for you today. So hit like and subscribe, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Brian McBride, and we have a fantastic show for you today. We're going to obviously do a preview of the U.S. men's national team's game against Colombia coming up, the first friendly of two. They'll play Brazil in the second one before Copa America kicks off. We're going to have the U-23 coach for the U.S. ahead of the Olympics, Marko Mitrovic, is going to be joining us, which is super exciting. And we're going to get into our Call It What You Want best seven-a-side team as well. We did a little draft, and I actually think my team's the best, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. What are you going to say? Go ahead, Big Brizzle. What are you going to say?
I expect nothing less. You did have the first pick. I just want to say.
I did have the first pick, and you do have a leg to stand on with regard to it not being very fair. But first, as we do, we're going to do the Call What You Want word of the day. I can't remember who won last week, but Charlie, was it you?
It's always me.
It's always you,
no,
unless you're being nice.
It's always me. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so question for everybody. Kylian Mbappe, Lionel Messi, Charlie Davies, and Brian McBride. What do all these names have in common?
Score goals, striker.
That's exactly right. They're all prolific goal scorers. I'll add that in front of it. And so the word to describe these types of players is goal getter. Goal getter. And no, it's not an English word. Okay?
I got it too. German.
German. I already said it.
I said it. I
said it first. Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Okay,
you said I got it first. I said German first.
No, I said German right before you said it, my friend.
Okay,
Jimmy,
well, what's
we
great is
we have it located here.
What's great is we don't even have to roll it back to see who said it first because it's not German. All right, so here are your clues. A club from this country reached 2 European Cup finals in the 1980s, winning the 86-87 edition of the competition. But nowadays, this country's domestic league has dropped all the way to 26th in UEFA's club coefficient rankings.
Hungry.
Nope. Next clue. This men's national team got out of the group stages of all 3 World Cups in the 1990s, getting as far as the quarterfinals in 94.
Czech Republic.
Switzerland.
No, but has failed to qualify for the tournament since the turn of the century.
Bulgaria.
Nope.
God. All right, so I get a little time now. It's right around there. I know that.
I swear.
Anybody playing at home? What do you think? Just yell it in your car. Yell it while you're on your run on the treadmill.
So
let's see here.
Romania, Hungary, Switzerland, Austria,
Germany.
How
about?
Wait, did somebody say Romania?
I just said Romania.
No, you don't get to guess. You don't get to guess until I guess. So I'm going to say Romania.
I thought somebody said it the way that Romania is the answer. Yeah! Romania is the answer. So
yes!
Chuck kind of got it, but Brian actually gets the W here because it was Brian's turn. And I totally botched that. I thought maybe somebody said it and I didn't hear you. So shout out to Romania, and the club back in the day that reached the European Cup finals in the 80s was Steaua Bucharest. So that was the club. That's the country. And with Georgie Hagi, right? Did he play for Romania back in the day? What a player.
I'm disappointed with my knowledge there. I should have had that. We were both way off. We were both way off.
Well, I can tell you they do say goal getter in Germany, but it's not spelled that way. I don't think.
And I said Germany first, so I would have taken
it.
All right, so for those playing at home, Brian is actually the winner, but Charlie did say it first. But those are the rules. Those are the rules.
I'm okay with that, L.
Okay. All right. I respect it. All right. Let's get into our first topic. It's the U.S. men's national team and their first friendly against Colombia. That game is going to be happening on Saturday on June 8th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. That is kickoff time. And it's happening at Commanders Field, also known or used to be known as FedEx Field in our nation's capital. It should be a great game. Let's talk about Los Cafeteros a little bit because their manager, Argentine Nestor Lorenzo, is unbeaten in 18 games in charge, 30 goals for, 13 against. And in their 2 friendlies back in March, they beat Spain 1-0. That game was in London. And then they beat Romania 3-2. Now, Romania got into the Euros. They ended up winning their qualifying group. So they're not a slouch. They're up 3-0. It ended up being 3-2. They gave up a couple late goals, but I was really impressed with how Colombia played in those particular matchups. Brian McBride, I'm coming to you first. Should we be a little bit nervous about Colombia overall? Because I actually feel like the more I watch them play, the more I'm like, maybe they're outside favorites to win Copa America.
Yeah, they have to be up there. I mean, they haven't lost a match since the 2nd of January 2022. And that's, those are some high quality games in South America. So talented team that's played together. The back line, part of the back line had played together in the U-20s that knocked us out of qualifying for the Olympics 4 years ago. So there's experience in there. All of them playing big clubs in Europe. I think of course you have Diaz is a real threat going forward, and definitely a team to be wary of, because not only are they good technically, but they're physically powerful, and they can hurt you in different areas of the field.
All right, so Chuck, they're the only unbeaten team in CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying, 3 wins and 3 draws. And when I watched them play in those March friendlies in particular, their wing play is fantastic. They create numerical advantages, and then they go at you with some real purpose and intent and speed. Of course, Lucho Diaz from Liverpool being the main protagonist, I would say, for their attack. James Rodriguez, even though he plays in Brazil right now, he is a different beast when he puts on a Colombian national team jersey. What are you expecting from this game in particular, and where should we be worried outside of the wing play, or unless you want to say that?
No, I mean, it'll be a good test. I don't, on paper, Colombia is not a team that you're scared of, the U.S. men's national team. You're not going, oh my God, they strike fear to me. I'm seeing Barca, Real, Bayern, seeing all these big clubs, but all of their players are important players at their clubs. Now they might not be all the biggest clubs, but the thing to look at is their influence at their club and their playing time. So all these pieces are big pieces on their club team. So, in looking at the Colombia team in the 4-2-3-1, I think we match up well. The wingers are their strongest part of their lineup, and our midfield is the strongest part of ours. So I think we got to dictate the tempo, control the tempo, win those second balls, and then try and get our outside guys isolated. I think that's where the game is going to be won. Who can get their wingers isolated, and then who has the better final ball.
I think what's interesting for me is because Serginho Dest is out hurt. I mean, whoever our right back is going to go right up against Lucho Diaz. So we're going to be thrown. For me, this is a good opportunity to potentially go into a back 3 and play with wing backs. And then obviously, as I mentioned before in a previous podcast, it's a fluid back 4, right?
So if it was a back 3, who plays that?
I would put Timo Weah at the right wing back spot and let him drop in and deal with the speed of Lucho Diaz, which Timo Weah has in spades. So we could maybe cancel that out in some ways. But yeah, there'd have to be some discipline. And if he got isolated in the defending third, Timo Weah, you just have to have somebody slide over and help cover, because what Lucho Diaz did in both of those games against Spain and Romania, the first goals were him getting crosses off, him just putting a little dink to the back post and nobody marking, and you got some very good goals and guys that know that's coming. And when you can run, and Brian knows this better than anybody, when you know that you can play with somebody out wide that can hit a ball inconsistently, you run into the first post, or you run to the back post with some real purpose, because you know the service and delivery is going to be there. Right, Brian?
That is correct, Jimmy. Yeah, no, most definitely. I think the other thing that stands out to me is they've only allowed 13 goals in 18 games under the manager. And, the fact that, you're in South American qualifying and that difficult to score on is impressive. So, for us, I think it's also going to be a difficult time trying to get forward and finding space. Their center back partnership is
strong,
so strong, but they've got height, they've got pace. So we're going to have to move the ball quickly and make sure that we're trying to get in between those center backs and wing backs to cause them some problems.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jimmy, because you brought up the formation change, right? Going 3 in the back, and without
I'm just saying you could try it.
I think
the friendlies are going to be the time to play.
I think it's an important conversation to have, because without a key player, if you didn't have Christian, if you didn't have Serginho Dest, then there's probably the best moment to try something new if you don't have a player like Serginho Dest. And if other players, in the center back position, are playing and becoming better and in form, then you can say, you know what, I think a back three might suit us, and we can play with the wing backs. Now you have options, right? I think the only two real options at that right wing back spot, if you're trying to keep the level as high as possible, is Timothy Weah, but also Weston McKennie. And you would move Weston out there, who can also come inside. Those are your two strongest players to play in that position. And then in the midfield, that's where you start to say, okay, what does it look like if Weston's not in there? Do you partner Tyler Adams with Johnny Cardoso? Do you bring Yunus Musa, who's always typically been there, but hasn't played as much this year, but at a club like Milan? Do you say, well, we're gonna kind of give you a pardon because you weren't a starring in a Milan midfield, or do you go with a Malik Tillman who starred in PSV and got a lot of playing time and did well in Champions League? Do you give him another opportunity to get into that midfield? So I think that's a great question to ask, considering the options that this U.S. team has, because you couldn't do that in a lot of other instances.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the back four and how well they've been playing. Both of you guys talking about it. They started the same back four in both of the friendlies in March, so I expect to see the same in our game in particular. Mojica, 31-year-old, played at Osasuna. He's a left back. Lukumi, 25-year-old, plays for Bologna. Cuesta, 25-year-old, plays for Genk with Mark McKenzie in the Belgian league. And then Munoz, 28-year-old, plays for Crystal Palace. Now they have two 35-year-old goalkeepers. Vargas plays for Atlas and Ospina. David Ospina plays in Al Nasser in Saudi Arabia. Lots of experience there. And you got Jefferson Lerma and Rios that sat in front of them, especially in the
Chris
Romania
Richards
game.
knows very well.
Yeah. There's a couple
Lerma?
Palace guys
Yes.
on with Lerma and Munoz in the team. I think what's interesting is that they press pretty high, and they definitely have some triggers that if a ball goes a certain way, or let's say from one center back to the left back, they're going to press very, very hard, and saw some examples of that over those two friendlies. And that's a good opportunity for us to maybe play a little short, long. If they're going to overload one side to try to trap us, then we have to be, as we mentioned before, we got to play quick and make sure that we're thoughtful about where they're coming and where they're trying to trap us. And if we can unlock that and hit that big switch, then I think we're in a good position to get forward with some real purpose.
Which is, I think, what Brian talked about earlier with Chris Richards being able to hit those long diagonals. Same with Tim Ream, that they have improved their distribution, and if you give them time, you don't have to always play through the midfield. Mm-hmm. I know, Greg likes to do that, but to be able to switch up the style of play, which is great. I wanted to address this and see what you guys thought, because you both got to play with this former teammate of yours, Alexi Lalas. So from Time Intensive in the comments, Alexi said, if you switch to a back three now, you have to commit until 2026. Do you agree with that?
No,
if we do.
No, I mean, there's got to be a fluidity. I want a team. Listen, I love my teams that can adapt to the situation. They're smart enough to understand in real time, hey, this isn't working, and we can make that switch instead of being so rigid that we have to do this the whole time. I will say very quickly, when just to kind of connect the dot of the pressure, if we had two wing backs, I wonder how Colombia would then try to pressure us if our outside backs are pushing higher up the field. And then maybe we can see one of our midfielders drop into the space and maybe unlock that pressure in that way. But I wanted to throw that out there.
You're going to trigger formation Marsh with that one.
No. He didn't want Gio Reyna. He didn't want our 10 to drop in line with our center backs. You could have another one of the midfielders drop in. But
Greg's done that before.
Sure, I don't know. I don't want that much rigidity in our. I want us to be able to adapt. Hey, one day we can play 5 in the back. One day we can play 3. We can play 4, whatever it is. And we adapt to the opponent, but still be true to the identity of how we want to play. Go ahead, Nick Brizzle.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Jimmy. I'm with you. I think it's one thing to train in a certain formation, but not play it in a match. So having the solutions of being able to move from a 4 in the back to a 3 in the back, and knowing that, as you pointed out, Jimmy, you can always drop the 6 and play just 4 across, right? Or like how sometimes Greg likes to play, pushes the wing backs all the way up, and it's 2 in the back with sort of a pivot of the 6. And having those options and the ability to play that way and make those changes in a real game and knowing how the outlook and where they can actually help and fix things moving forward, I think it's a great opportunity. And that's where these friendlies play a big part on how the coaching staff can then implement and train moving forward.
All right, so Chuck, let's get into projected 11s. What's your 11? What's your formation for this game? And then me and McBrizzle can pick it apart.
All right, now I'm all about the back three. Like,
yes, we got him.
I was on the
everybody.
fence. I was on the fence, but just thinking about the depth and looking now at our center backs and Chris Richards, Tim Ream, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mark McKenzie, and Miles Robinson, they're all capable center backs and all playing. So for me, you go with the back three. Let's roll it out. Let's see what we got. So my back three is Chris Richards, Tim Ream in the middle, Chris Richards on the left, Tim Ream in the middle, and Cameron Carter-Vickers on the right. So that's my back three. Right wing back. For this one, I'll probably start with Timothy Weah, just to see how he, because I mean, we're talking about pace, stretch the back line, and then Anthony Robinson at the left, Tyler Adams at the 6. Now I'm gonna go Weston McKennie and Gio Reyna in the middle. Gio Reyna more of that 10, right, to be underneath the striker. Up top, this is what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Wright on the left, Balogun at the 9, and Haji Wright on the right.
Is that 12 players?
That's
sorry.
12 players.
Christian Wilson. No, it isn't.
Was that not 12?
You got 5 in the midfield, and then you have 3 at the back, 5 in the midfield, and then 3 up top.
I have
Charlie with the famous 3-5-3 formation.
Where's the third?
You had Tyler, Weston, and Gio, and then you had you have Jedi Robinson. You didn't mention Jedi on the left side then.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah. And then
you have 3 center backs. Jedi and Weah. Then you had you have to lose one of the midfielders. So Gio, Weston, and Tyler. And then you have 3 up top.
Oh, that's where I went wrong. Okay.
So who would you lose? Because I like where you're at. I like where your head's at.
Three. Yeah. So a 3-4-3 is what you need to go with.
Or 3-5-2.
3-5-2 is
or
fine.
3-5-2.
Yeah, or you could have a 3-5-1-1. You could have a box in midfield.
He stumped himself.
He stumped himself.
I did stump myself.
No, this is the big challenge. I think this will be the challenge for the coaching staff as well. But ultimately, I like where your head's at with this. We just have to lose one of the players.
So I'm gonna go with 2 up top.
Who are you dropping?
Going back to the 2. So I'm dropping Haji Wright. So it's Balogun.
He's dropping Haji Wright.
Balogun and Pulisic up top.
Okay. I respect it. McBrizzle, you change anything there?
Yeah, I like the idea of it because you can always rotate Christian and Gio and have them sort of float in and around Balogun. So I actually like it. The question mark. I like it
as well. I mean, the big thing is the formation. Will Greg even try to consider it? Yeah.
Your 12-man team was much better.
The 12
much better.
Much better.
We're winning Copa America with that first lineup.
Significant advantage in that game.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the projected lineup for Colombia and see what they got cooking. So you got Machado at the left back, Sal Mojica in the last 2. Lucumi, Cuesta, Munoz, Vargas in goal, Castaño and Lerma. Castaño started against Spain. He's a good player. Cordoba is going to be up top, 31-year-old, played at Mainz and Cologne, but currently plays for Krasnodar in Russia. John Arias, he scored the winner against Spain. He'll be on the right side. James Rodriguez, 32-year-old, playing for São Paulo in Brazil. And then Lucho Diaz, probably the most in form and best player for Colombia right now, 27-year-old, plays for Liverpool. And that is going to be a very difficult team to break down. Unbeaten in 18 games. Unbelievable scenes. All right, everybody, we are going to take our first break of Call It What You Want. Actually, no, you know what? I want a prediction. What do you guys think is going to happen?
Go ahead, McBrizzle.
What do you got, McBrizzle?
Yeah, I think this is going to be too big to overcome. I say it's 2-1 Colombia.
Oh, you are such a
he kept the emotion out of it. He kept the bias out of it.
Oh, my God.
What are you saying?
He went, hey,
I'll say
I'm going
2-2. I'm going to say 2-2.
Look at you.
I wanted to jump in before you said it.
You guys are sick.
What?
I'm going with a 2-1 win.
I hope that from your lips to the soccer god's ears, but I don't know if that's what's going to go down. I mean, that's
what's going to go down.
Team. And we might be trying a different formation. You got to take all that stuff into consideration. So,
yeah, I am.
All right. So we got Grizzle with the Colombia win. We have Charlie with the U.S. win, and I'm straddling the fence with a draw because that's what I do. I'm friends with everybody. All right, we're going to take our first break. A call what you want when we come back. More of the good stuff right after this.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Chuck Davies and Brian McBride. And we are excited at some point. We're going to be joined by Marko Mitrovic, the head coach of the U-23s for the U.S. as they head to the Olympics.
Time.
But before we get there, we want to talk about the Concacaf Champions Cup. We're going to recap what happened between the Columbus Crew and Pachuca. Pachuca won this competition for the 6th time in their history. They booked their ticket to the 2025 Club World Cup. The Crew fall just short after taking some scalps along the way. The hardest working team in America took down Monterrey and Tigres, but couldn't get the job done against Pachuca. As a former Crew player, Brian McBride, how are you feeling about this performance, this run throughout this competition? They just fell a little short there at the finish line.
They did, and you know, Pachuca, it's no surprise how well Pachuca played. You know, granted they're in Mexico, it's a home game for them, but more importantly, they've shown that through this whole tournament. Their ability to press the ball, the unity that they move both offensively and defensively. You know, it was too bad that the Crew weren't able to take their opportunities in the first 5 minutes. They had 2 breaks. One was like pretty wide open chance with Matan, could have just laid the ball across for an easy tap in, but just held on to it a little too long to close down. And then 2 minutes later, Pachuca goes down and scores. And you know, that is sort of as you guys know, just a gut punch. And Pachuca didn't let up. They were able to actually close the ball down better in the first half after the first 15 minutes. You know, whenever Columbus was able to break the pressure, they just fouled. And that was sort of the story. And you know, when the second goal goes in, you could just see the confidence from Pachuca. And you knew that game would be really tough to come back from. But Crew, great run, as you said. You know, this is unfortunately they moved to a one-off instead of a home and away game, and Pachuca ends up being deserving winners.
Yeah, I want to jump on that particular topic, Brian, with regard to a one-off final. Do you feel like it should have been neutral spot there, Chuck? And there are a couple of reasons. One, I think it gave a huge advantage to Pachuca, not only in front of their home fans, but due to altitude. And as we've come to learn, there was some Montezuma's revenge swirling around the Crew camp where everybody was running to the bathroom with some stomach issues, and some guys couldn't sleep. And obviously it impacted their performance. I don't know if you guys have had Montezuma's revenge before, but it's the worst. And if you have to concentrate on playing in a big game as well, it's not that easy. Do you feel like you don't mind a one-off, Chuck, if as long as it's in a neutral spot, or do you don't mind the home team having a tournament? Obviously, if you are hosting a final, it's going to be a big deal, but that two-legged might have felt a little bit more fair.
Yeah, I think if you're not doing two-legged, I think it should be neutral. I think you're trying to get the best possible team without a home field advantage in that scenario, just like a Champions League final for the most part. So I think it should have been neutral, and it obviously playing in Mexico heavily favors Pachuca against the Columbus Crew side that I think felt like maybe they ran out of gas at this stage, and the way that Pachuca played.
Is that a play on words? Because I don't think they had any more gas left, to be honest.
I realized as I was saying it, I was like, wow.
Well, let's keep it clean here.
I was like, wow, that's kind of genius. They just didn't have the legs for this one. And I think when you're dealing with a Salomon Rondon, one of the top strikers in North America at the club level. It's tough when you have a striker like that.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at that.
Trying to come back.
I'm trying to kind of come back from it. No. I agree with you. Yeah, you could sense it, that especially after the first goal was scored, in the way that it was scored, it was a great through ball, but it was a goal that I don't feel like the Crew give up very often, and one of those where they're all kind of looking at each other like, who should have done better there? And you could sense, to your point, McBrizzle, that Pachuca just gained a lot of confidence from that. And Solomon Rondon scored 2 goals in this game. He was up for it. And sometimes you go down to Mexico, you go down in these games, and you don't really know how serious they're going to take it. Obviously, this is the final, so it's going to be pretty serious. But when they're up for it and ready to go, it's very difficult to go down there and get a result. And it was going to be a monumental effort from the Crew to make that happen, especially after the last 2 beating Tigres and Monterrey along the way. They have a ton to be proud of, and Wilfred Nancy continues to impress me as a coach, even in defeat. He's so classy and a really great representative for MLS coaches, and I think the Crew have done a very good job of earning some respect, a little bit inch by inch, I think, with our counterparts below the border. But yeah, good performance overall. All right, we got a new segment I want to get into, and it is this. We're gonna. It's like an MVP of our week. Okay, you ready? Here we go. The most versatile performance is presented by Viore, a new perspective on performance apparel. And our most versatile performance of the week goes to Venezia's Gianluca Busio, who had a tremendous assist for Venezia in their playoff to try to get back up to Serie A. There's only 1 goal scored over 2 legs between Venezia and Cremonese, and he made the difference. I was really impressed with his recognition of making a run out of midfield and then his composure to just tap it across the box to his teammate to slot it in, and that was the only goal. And I know we've talked a lot about Tanner Tessman, and he was awesome over the 2 legs as well, but Busio made that play, and I thought that he deserved some shine and some love. So he's my most versatile performance of the week. But let's talk about Busio a little bit, because I also think McBrizzle, he's going to be part of our Olympic team as well, and we'll try to get that confirmation from Marko Mitrovic a little bit later. But I've been impressed with him. He's just been quietly steady, and then all of a sudden shows up and makes big plays.
Yeah, steady and versatile. You can put him anywhere in that midfield. He's not the most imposing player, but he's got great feet. His movement is really good. His positioning is good. He knows how to bring his teammates into the game. Also, I think that from a very young age, he's been able to adapt quickly. And you provide him new challenges, and he seems to just grasp them and take them. And they don't come challenges anymore. So the next step for him now is going to be, playing in Serie A again. Can you do the same up there with the big boys, and making sure that you continue your growth as a player? But you have to pat him on the back for not only a good week, but a great season.
Yeah. So Chuck, let's talk about Busio. We can bring in Tessman as well, because from what I understand, both of them are getting interest from other Serie A clubs to maybe leave Venezia and go somewhere else. But obviously having the chance to be in Serie A is going to be a huge accomplishment for both of these guys. But you wonder if they don't want to go through another season like they did a few years ago when they got relegated, where it's like a scrap. It's a fight. You're in a relegation fight from minute 1 when you get into Serie A. And I could sense that maybe both of these players want to go to maybe a team that's a little bit more stable, mid-table or better, where they can get some minutes, of course, and be difference makers, but also just not be scrapping every single game as they continue to develop as players.
Let's also not forget that they're in Venice. Okay, so it's not the worst place.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for them
to live. You're not screaming, "Get me the hell out of here!" But I think for both players, all you could do is try to improve and to be competing in Serie A. And if they don't move, but they're playing in Serie A and they stay in Serie A, then you have no complaints at all. But I think what Tessman needed to do is be able to play quicker, anticipate plays better, because he doesn't have the pace as a midfielder if you're covering so much ground, just to do it in an intelligent way. And I think this year was so important for his growth, because now he's finding better spots on the pitch. His distribution is better. He's a good tackler. I think we've already known that, but to be involved throughout the game and not be exposed had been something he needed to work on. And this season, I think he's overcome some of those obstacles. And then Gianluca Busio, it's just the final ball. It seems like he gets himself in good positions, but maybe the execution on the final pass or the shot wasn't there. But 7 goals and 4 assists, I believe, in this year is an improvement for him. So again, I don't think they're in any rush, but you want to hope that your performances inspire clubs to say, hey, I see some potential in him. I'll take, he's a risk worth taking. And so I think for Tessman, given the rumor mill, he is being rumored to go to several other Serie A clubs.
All right. That was
for me,
the most,
Jimmy.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think we're talking about, possible moves. I think if either of them were to move, it's important that they're never going to get it. You're going to play, but it's important that the club you're moving to has a vision of you playing, because that's how those players, being the age they are, they need to continue to keep pushing on and improving, and you only do that by playing. So, Venezia, they would play, right? So,
right.
Make sure that they're making this decision with the understanding of the need to play is a necessity.
Okay, so Brian, let me ask you this then, as someone that has experience, helping U.S. men's national team in particular. How does Busio and or Tessman get into the national team, into the full team? They've obviously had a little bit of a taste of it, and performing well at the Olympics is going to help, of course. Well, we've got some beasts that are in front of them, and you wonder what
deepest pool.
Yeah, I mean, so how you're one of those players? You're like, wow. We're playing in Serie A. This is stuff that Americans weren't doing on the regular. We're holding our own against some of the best players and teams in the world, and we can't get a sniff with our national team. I mean, what I don't I guess maybe the way to phrase it is, what do you tell these guys if you're coaching them, or if you're how to stay positive that you'll get your chance when it might not be? I don't know.
Jimmy, the only way to break into a team that has quality players in your position is to show that you can do the same thing, and you can do it at that same level. And so for them to have a goal of playing with the national team and for the World Cup in 2026, they need to be playing at a really good level in Serie A or wherever. If they move to, it has to be at the highest level, because it would be really difficult for me as a coach to say, hey, I'm going to drop somebody that I have in the team that's playing at one of the larger clubs in Europe for a Serie B player. And so that's number one, playing at the highest level. And then when you get into camp, you have to show that you can do whatever is asked of you and you can excel at the same time. Having a bad camp is not going to help you to be brought back.
Right. Chuck, any words of advice to these guys?
Yeah, I mean, they're both going to be on level playing field with Yunus Musa and Weston McKennie. So you have an opportunity to show your quality in the league. And like every national team player during this cycle and the ones prior to them, including all of ours, the only way you get an opportunity is by performing extremely well with your club and doing it consistently. So if Tanner Tessman and Gianluca Busio are lighting up Serie A every week and doing their job and maybe doing more than that they're supposed to, guess what? They're going to get a call up and they're going to get their moves, because that's how this career works. You gotta do it not only for your country, you got to do it for your club first in order to get that call for your country. And you can't be ignored once that you're making waves in Italy and doing your job.
All right, shout out to Gianluca Busio for winning our first ever Most Versatile Performance, presented by Viore, a new perspective on performance apparel. All right, we're going to take our next break of Call It What You Want. When we return, we're going to get into our 7v7 all-time U.S. men's national team teams. I think you're going to like this segment, so do not go anywhere.
You hear that? It's the steady pulse of the world's game that's turning fans into family and sport into passion. You hear that? It's the heartbeat of American soccer. The USL on CBS Sports Network.
A highlight, I would say, in my career, if you want to state it, if I want to state it like that, had to be the 2002 World Cup. The way those guys played. And I could not have been more proud of a team after the game against Germany. We lost in the quarterfinals.
Going into that tournament, right? So you know your players, you know the personnel, you know the potential of that group. Did you see that coming? Knowing what your group looked like first and foremost.
We're opening up with Portugal.
Right.
Number 3 in the world, Luis Figo, World Player of the Year. I think it was the year before. So, start of the second half, Figo standing next to me on the touchline, and he'd played the first half against Frankie, and Frankie was a handful. He was a great defender. And Figo's saying to me, that guy was pretty good. And I said to him, well, wait until you see this guy, the big cat, Tony Santa, who just ate everyone alive in the World Cup. It was great. So, you know, it was a great win. We clearly didn't, no one in the world expected us to beat Portugal.
If you had to pick one moment from that World Cup, what would it be?
I think it was us sitting in the bus after the Mexico game, with Mexico right next to us. And
That bus pulled up alongside
there
yours?
was 2 buses right next to, and the 2 countries hated each other. And looking at those guys, we're looking at through our window, they're looking at theirs, and we're looking at them. And they got their asses kicked.
All right, that was a great clip there from Bruce Arena. He's on Kicking It with our very
Do you
own
remember that?
Charlie
Do you remember
Davies.
that, Brian?
Oh yeah, I mean, he didn't even tell the whole story though, because he probably didn't. He didn't want to go so long. But you know, just like any time when you're on the bus after a big win, the music's just pumping, and Ernie and Kobe Jones are just dancing like crazy and like pointing at the Mexican bus. I mean, it's one of those situations where, you know, you're right next to him, and Mexico's like this: "Don't look, don't look, don't look." And we were going crazy. It was great.
That changed the narrative of U.S. Mexico. I mean, that was a real watershed moment, I think, for the program, and we ended up kind of going on a run for a while, and then they regained it for slightly, and now we're back on that run again. But I'm ecstatic to see this whole episode. Bruce took me to a World Cup in 06, so I'm obviously his #1 fan, but I'm curious to see all the insights and stories he got to share. Charlie, anything you took away from that interview that obviously we didn't see? You got to spend some intimate time with Bruce.
I signed an NDA, so I can't reveal actually what was.
We have to wait for the episode.
Show.
Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, I really can't reveal. No, it was an incredible episode. I mean, sitting down with Bruce, and I never played for Bruce, so I don't know how he works on the day-to-day. I worked with Bruce because I was calling the Revs games, and I'd see him around training and see how he operated. But to hear his thoughts on where the U.S. was, you know, when he took over, how he started MLS, and just the growth of the game and all the little stories, because he's coached damn near everybody, whether he's coached everyone or he's, you know, compete against, you know, everyone in the U.S. soccer landscape. It's incredible when you think about it, right? So to hear his perspective, and he was just so laid back, you would have never thought this was a show. You would have thought this was his living room. The way he spoke is very comfortable. So I think from that standpoint, you know, you learned a lot. We talked as much as we could about the whole revolution situation, which he was pretty candid on, as much as he could, at least. And yeah, he's still hungry and motivated to manage, which is also something that I took from it.
So Brian, when people ask me who one of my favorite managers or coaches were throughout my career, Bruce is usually on the top of the list. There's different coaches I learned from and gained a ton of insight from and experience from along the way. But there was just something about the way that Bruce managed me and managed the team overall that I really appreciated. And I guess to give everybody some context, what I loved about him is that he had a sense of humor about it. I love the balance that he had. Like when it was time to switch on, you needed to switch on. And if you were ready to go, you were ready to go, and you had to hit that switch to make it happen. But when it was done, he wanted you to be yourself. He really championed you being around the guys and having a laugh. And I appreciated that. He didn't treat us like kids. He treated us like adults. And there were some coaches along the way that treated you like you were a kid and you didn't know better. I'm not going to name any names. We can save that for another podcast. But I wonder, because Brian, you played for him for 2 World Cups. Do you feel the same way? And where does he rank for you in terms of your all-time managers?
I do. Yeah, I feel exactly the same, Jimmy. I think he was one of the coaches that gave you enough leeway or enough rope to be yourself and do the things you want to do. But he gave you enough rope that you could hang yourself. And if you didn't act in a certain way, or if you didn't hold yourself the way he wanted to, he told you. And the best way I can say is you knew you were doing well playing for Bruce as long as he didn't say anything to you. So if he's not telling, because he's not one of those coaches like, hey, great job. He's one of those guys like, okay, that was pretty good. You knew you had a hell of a game then. And then, but if you didn't, he would be in your face like, what are you doing out there? And so,
Brizzle, but when you first played under him, he had coached DC United, he had won an MLS Cup, he had coached at UVA, but not a real big presence in the international game. And now he's managing you for the U.S. men's national team. What were you anticipating before you got to know him, and then just how did he change your perspective, if at all?
I had a chance to get to know him, so I played against him in college. We played UVA at SLU, so I saw it firsthand and how we communicated. Oh, dude, we lost the semifinal.
Oh,
we were up 2-1 with 1:20 left, and Steve Kuntz gets bridged in the back, and our goalkeeper he's our backup goalkeeper because our main goalkeeper did his knee playing the pickup sort of, what is it? It was
like intramural.
It was fraternity football game. He said that was just kicking, and the guy came through and did his thing. Anyways, so I knew him from there, and then playing against him at DC, you saw his personality, and he always has the big personality. He's dry humor, as you know, Jimmy, and I'm sure you know from being around him at the Revs, Charlie. So when he came in, the biggest thing that he did was he changed the whole mentality. And I know we talked about this on Kicking It, Charlie, but he made us believe about not only in ourselves, but we could win games and beat anybody. And that mentality switch helped us, changed us. We when we got drawn for Portugal in our first game for the World Cup, the first camp in January when we all came in together, he started. First thing he said was, "We're going to beat Portugal," and it all shocked us. We're like, "Whoa!" He's never started a meeting like that. And every time after that we got together, he kept pounding in our heads, and we believed it.
And you sure as hell played like you did.
No question. No question.
Incredible.
That Portugal game in particular, when you're up 3-0 after 30 minutes and you all kind of look at each other like, what the hell is going on here?
As well as Portugal, like who the hell is this?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. It was next level. Well, in honor of Bruce and being a manager of a U.S. men's national team, and with TST kicking off here in Cary, North Carolina, which is where I am, my team, Quick Goal FC, is going to try to win the $1 million here. We decided to do our all-time U.S. men's national team 7-a-side team. And I want to give a shout out to producer Dest, who allowed me to have the first pick of the draft. So how are we doing this, producer Dest? I mean, my show and my team. Here we go. So now everybody in the comments, or anybody listening at home, give me a shout out on social media, because my team rules. I got Timmy Howard in goal. I got Carlos Bocanegra. By the way, I should mention I'm in a 2-3-1 formation. So Timmy Howard's in goal, Bocanegra on the left, Trundolo on the right, Pablo Mastriani sitting right in front of them. So we can drop and do it. He can go in the middle. We could play a back three if we wanted, get into more of a Christmas tree formation, 3-2-1. I got DeMarcus Beasley on the left side, Christian Pulisic on the right, Clint Dempsey up top. That is a banging team.
Your first pick was Dempsey.
My first pick was Dempsey. Yeah, that could be controversial for some, but I don't. Even though he broke my jaw after the 2006 World Cup, we're friends now. So I picked him number 1, baby. Charlie, who's your team again? I can't remember.
So I have McBride leading the line for me. Lannon and Sergio Dest, Claudio Reyna, Jermaine Jones, Weston McKinney, and Friedel in goal. Yeah, I mean, this is.
Where are your defenders? I'm trying to decide where your defenders are at.
We're playing 7-a-side. You don't need full on defenders.
Have you been down here at TST? You're going to need a couple guys that know how to defend.
You're telling me Jermaine and Weston can't defend?
They can, but whether they want
So-
to is something different.
Oh,
They're gonna want to go forward though. You're gonna be
yeah.
left with
I don't
nobody
know
in
if
the
this team
back
is
line.
balanced.
I'm telling you
I
right
don't know-
now,
I don't like the balance of
and
this team.
I put Claudio in the middle right now because he controls the tempo. We all know how gifted he was on the ball, and he can play
100%.
both ways. So for me, we just ping it up to Brian. Hold it up, Brian. This is your job. Hold it up. Bring Dest and Landon into the attack, and then they're gonna whip balls in for you. Just ping it in like you always do. We're good. I'm
right.
really satisfied with this team.
I like it.
Okay, let's see Brian's team. Let's see
I'll
Brian's
give
team.
you third. I'll give you third place.
All right, Brian, talk
Now,
us through it.
Yeah, my team. Look at the two center backs. Not only are they great defenders, but good with the ball, especially Balboa. Marcelo Balboa. He's, I think one of the more underrated national team players from history. But Eddie Pope being the best defender the U.S. has ever produced. And then I love my midfield.
I take exception to that, but keep going.
Sorry, Jeff.
That back line
I'm gonna
is
keep my head
A
down.
plus. I'll give you that.
We got
That's an
Casey
A+
Keller in
back
goal.
line.
We got to mention that. Casey
in
Keller in goal.
One of the best shot stoppers ever.
Mhm,
And he promised me when I put him on the team that he would play like he did against Brazil when we beat
Should
Brazil.
I be proud of myself because I scored on him?
Yeah, you should. Todd Ramos, who can do anything with the ball. You can give him the ball in any position. Eunice, of course, is going to be the engine where he's going to connect up and back. And John O'Brien, another person that you just can't take the ball off.
Yeah,
And in a
it's a good team.
77 setting, and then of course we have Josie Altidore. He can run in behind. He can hold the ball up. He's a finisher.
We're talking young Josie. We're talking 09, 2010 Josie. Then
These are
prime
peak?
These are
This
peak
is
ages
prime
in all the
Josie.
players.
So
Peak
I was going to
ages.
say you wouldn't want me in your team if we're playing nowadays. Right?
Truth, but
So,
yes. you had a prime. What year would you say your prime was your best season ever? 02?
Yeah, 02 was probably my best season numbers wise, but 04, 05, and 06, 07 were I was.
Yeah, I'm taking 02 McBride. That's
I love that you said that.
that
to Brian
World
McBride.
Cup
You're telling
form
McBride when his best year was, Charlie. I've got plenty of time for that. All right. Once you guys decide that my team is the best, I appreciate that. We're going to take our last break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we have a special guest joining us, the U-23 coach for the U.S. men's national team. He's going to be leading us into the Olympics. Marko Mitrovic is going to be with us. We're excited. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Gear up for a bi-coastal clash with world-class talent. It's the NWSL on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+. Keep your eyes on me.
All right, welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies, Brian McBride, and a very special guest, Marko Mitrovic, who has the responsibility of leading us to the Olympics, the first time that we participated in this competition since 2008 when Charlie and Brian were both on the team playing. So they're going to have plenty of questions for you, or at least maybe give you some insight, Marko. So thank you for being here with us, first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me with you guys. And it's great to see all of you and talk to you and learn from you.
What's up, Marko?
Hey, hi, Brian. Great.
All right, so Marko, first question for me. So you played as a midfielder for about 15 years. You transitioned into coaching. You have a ton of success with the Serbian youth national teams. You get into Chicago Fire MLS there for 4 years, and now you're taking over the U-23s. But I want to kind of get back to the Serbian youth national team stuff. What did you learn from that experience, and what can you use that to help our U-23s have success at the Olympics itself?
Yeah, it's coaching the national teams. It is a little bit different than coaching the club environment, and the biggest takeaway I have, like what it takes to play like a big tournaments. And obviously we were lucky to win the World Cup. So like what it takes to win the World Cup, and anything that you speak about the environment, game model, the players pool, so that's something that like probably we always have reflection on our lives and things that were good or things that we would done differently, but that would be the best takeaway that I had.
Marko, it's great insight and the knowledge you have from going through that experience. It's only going to help us, I can imagine. So my question to you, knowing you very well, having worked with you at U.S. Soccer, and knowing that the youth system from top to bottom, and the difficulties of trying to put together a roster for the Olympics, knowing that clubs can tell you, no, we're not going to release a player. Can you walk us through when those communications started, and how difficult has it been to try and build out the team you want compared to the team that you're going to be allowed to have?
Yeah, I mean, it is a process. It is a really, really, we can use the word difficult, but it's a complex process. As we know, there is like the first thing, the clubs control everything because they are not there is no obligation to release the players for the Olympic Games. Also, when we think about the Olympic Games, in the middle of the transfer window in July, so sometimes there is a lot of uncertainty on the players' movement and where they're gonna be for the next season. Then we have also the situation with MNT and with the Copa America, where there is a big pool of Olympic age group players. They are playing Copa America, and then if you talk about 3 overage players, like some players maybe that you want to take from that roster, if they are not on that roster, who are the other guys? So it is really like a complex process. And Brian, when you were with us, like every time we discuss any roster, we're taking like from every angle and trying to always understand the big picture first. And then this is something that I would say it's probably the most challenging for any coach. I believe it's more challenging than just put a roster for the World Cup, because World Cup you control a lot. But here there are a lot of decisions that are not under our control.
Marko, you got a chance to play against France, and you saw, the quality that they have. They're one of the Olympic favorites. But Thierry Henry, he's talked about having the same type of problem you have. We can't get the players that we want because clubs won't release them. But you got the chance to get tested by them and had a good result. In the big picture, where do you need to improve the most to continue this type of progress with this team? Because I feel like you're just on the cusp of being one of those teams that really believes that we can go out and get a gold medal if you can draw a team like France in France.
Yeah, I would go first. Like, let's be sure that we have what we have right now. That's sometimes you want more, but then you get less. That's where I'm like right now. Like, we're in really good path as a group. And I actually like the environment that staff and players are creating here, and it's very enjoyable. I think we're developing on the field as well. And what I would love that at least we are where we are right now with this group keep developing, So my hope is that we don't have any setbacks with the players that are currently on our roster.
And just if you had to look at this team right now, and I know you said sometimes you want more and it may take away, what's the one thing that you need from this team to ensure, possibly getting a medal in this Olympics?
Yeah, listen, we can do always, like, I don't want this to be like a political answer, but
right.
I would like that everything we do on the field, I still believe there is a room to be better, and any moment or phase of the game that we talk about. But however, like if I see where we were in October and then how fast we moved, forward in March camp, being like 24 days in 6 months with the guys and progressing, like we're actually really happy, and what we want to get from this June camp is to see like another improvement on and off the field.
All right, so on June 11th, just to bring it up, Marko, you guys take on Japan in Kansas City. That game kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern. It should be a lot of fun. Obviously, you have some questions of the group, and you could hopefully get some answers as you continue to fine-tune the 18 players. I don't know if we talked about that yet, but you only get to select 18 for the Olympics, where that's another luxury the World Cup has, right? You get 25, 26 players. So you can maybe take some risk on guys that are on the fence or with injuries or whatever it may be. You get 18. 2 of those are goalkeepers. You've already named Walker Zimmerman in this group. So we naturally assume, you can just blink if that's a yes, that he's going to be one of the overage players. But so now you're down to 15.
Okay.
Yeah, you're down to 15. You're down to 15. And Thierry Henry just came out and had a quote recently about putting his team together. He said, the last time that I received this many rejections was back in school or back at the university. He said, Real Madrid were really straightforward about the Olympics. Last time I received so many rejections was at the university. There have not even been negotiations. You go, you ask, they say no, and you leave, which speaks about what you were talking about earlier. But I kind of want to know, when you look at your team, I mean, you got one overage with Walker Zimmerman. Are you looking at the Copa America roster for players that maybe won't play as much, or who you assume won't play as much, and then they're going to come down to you? Or is that too big of an ask to have them play in 2 tournaments? I mean, I know you have to tap dancing around it because you still have some questions that need to be answered within the group, but that has to be the hardest part of the job, is putting your team together. And then conversely, telling players that, hey, we're going to go with somebody else, has got to be very difficult as well.
Yeah. So several things. It like we spoke, it's really up to the clubs, and it's difficult. And it's not just difficult to get them, also the change of opinion down the road. Because clubs are also in different circumstances. If you approach the club in March, they might say yes or no, and in May they might change their opinion. Like it's also the circumstances that they have within their environment. However, no matter what are their circumstances, they would always like their players to be there, and especially knowing that they don't need to release the players. A lot of clubs, that's their starting position. Now, if we talk about Copa America and some players playing 2 tournaments, historically, if you go through the rosters of some other national teams, there are players that played is it like Copa America and Olympic Games, or it's a South American competition and playing, or Euros and playing Olympic Games. I don't think it's a massive demand for the players, like you said, especially if some guys don't have a lot of playing times. But again, I don't think that clubs evaluate that on that way, they have 1 or 2 tournaments. They go with okay, we are mandatory to do this, or we are not mandatory to do something else. So, and it's we are all on our toes all the time, and listening, talking, communicating, collaborating, with our MNT staff, but also with the clubs, and learning, trying to learn, where we are staying with any potential player going to the Olympic Games. So it doesn't matter if it's Olympic age group player or overage player.
So Marko, I know it's a difficult time to answer this question with the camp coming up, but I have a feeling that you have a good idea of what your core is. And knowing that, how important is this camp to help you decide on finalizing the roster? And are there any players outside of this camp that are still in your eyes having the ability to make this team? Diego Luna sort of sticks out to me as someone that you've had in before, who's done really well at the U-20 World Cup. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is there the situation where this camp is a real decider for you for some players, or is this more of a I'm still wide open to making decisions about the team itself?
Yeah, we're really, really still wide open. If there is a core group, yes, there are guys that they've been with us all 3 camps so far, and they are now. Some of the guys maybe would have been here for 3 camps as well, but there were different circumstances, like not released from the clubs or being injured, and they had less camps. But we are open. This is having core group with us help new guys on the field, because if you throw 11 new players, it's really difficult to do on the field what's asked them to do. But if you have some players that are within the process all the time, they actually help a lot new players coming here, and also knowing that it's roster only 16 plus 2 players, this is also opportunity for some of the guys to play different positions, because we cannot go with 16 I'm right fullback, I'm left fullback, I'm center back. We have to have diversity on the roster as well. And yeah, in this camp, you might see some guys in not usual positions, but we have to see if this is possible for them to play, you know. So definitely this is not the final roster. I can't say now we have 20 guys outside of this roster that we are looking at more, but definitely there are guys that they're not today with us, but they are in consideration for the Olympic Games.
I know versatility is key. I mean, Brian and I on the 2008 Olympic team, it was tight. I was in the form of my club career, and it was tight to make that roster. So, Marko, when you look at this team, can you shed some light on some players that fit the age group, but were not released from the roster that you thought, you know, which for me, I just don't understand how a club could deny a player from coming in to an Olympic age being Olympic age eligible to come into a camp knowing that this tournament is like a mini World Cup, that your players are assets and they're only going to, if not stay the same, increase drastically with that experience that you can never get again. So in my mind, it's a no-brainer, but I know you're hearing a lot of other things, especially I don't want my players coming back injured, but are there some players that you couldn't get an okay from?
Yeah, first of all, I would like that you're GM or sporting director for every club, so I can talk to you about it.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
There is a change of the rules. So starting this year, for our FIFA windows, so like June camp now and March camp, clubs are mandatory to release. So everything that is FIFA window, clubs have that obligation. But however, Olympic Games are not FIFA window. You know, so it was a different before for like, because Olympic team, it still belongs like under youth umbrella, and for youth teams, FIFA window wasn't protected. Now it is. So like I said, March and June, we have no issues. Clubs cannot say we're not going to release the players, but Olympic Games are a different story.
Right.
All right. So Marko, we got 3 games. And the first one is up July 24th against the hosts France, who we had the chance to play against in a recent friendly. I want to get your thoughts on that. Then we have July 27th, a couple days later, against New Zealand. See how the Kiwis play in that one. And then July 30th, we take on Guinea, who we also just played in a friendly. So going back to those 2 friendlies, knowing what you know now about that experience of playing 90 minutes, good 90 minutes against both teams and getting positive results, 3-0 win against Guinea and 2-2 against France, having to come back from a 2-goal deficit against France and really showed some character and grit as a team. What do you take away from those 2 performances, and how can they help you going into the group stages?
Yeah. On one side, like what we spoke, it's like growth of the team on and off the field, you know, like, and that camp was another great tool for us. Yeah, maybe like the first win against Guinea with like a really, really strong performance, you know, and like from very beginning, we were like, we went on the field with authority, you know, and then even though that we were down 2-0 and we talk about having a good character and coming back 2-2, tying game 2-2, I think there were moments in a game where we were actually very good and creating some chances. Obviously, France is so talented. Like, you cannot expect that they're not going to create something. Like, it's impossible. On that level, everybody's good, you know, but I think that that for us to taste that level and what is needed to compete on that level and coming back, like you said, and I don't know if you remember, like even in extra time on 2-2, we had 2 attacks that we could have scored the 3rd goal. So that's something that for me, it's very important that like we have to start everything with respecting ourselves, you know, if we want to compete on the highest level. So, but again, you'll see both Guinea and France will probably have a quite different roster than they had in March camp. So it's very, for me, unpredictable. If you go even New Zealand, they have players playing on elite level. And it's just, again, who's going to be overage players, what Olympic age group players will be released, and that's going to determine the strength of every team. Like, it's not on the paper, like the name of the country, I think it's strong, you know? So, like, I think Guinea has the forward who is like 2nd best scorer in Bundesliga that didn't play March games. So there are so many players, actually, you know?
Yeah, Marko, you know, since that camp, you know, I'm sure you went back and watched a lot of that tape and have analyzed that. Is there something you noticed that you're going to be working on more in this upcoming camp that you really want to fine tune? And has there been one player since then that sort of just has jumped out at you that you are really anxious to see in camp itself?
Like, there are certain things, like we first of all, we know that we play games every third day, and we are very about us. We are not going to have time there to adapt to opposition, and then we want to be strong in what we are doing on the field. Let's say it's basics for our game model, and something that we want to make even stronger. And there are small tactical adjustments that we want to do again to add towards our basics, not complicating things that we are doing, because it can lead us in some different direction. So if I would speak about that. Obviously, connections that we have off the field, like I'm really, really so happy with the stuff that we have, and the interaction with the players, and the environment that staff and players created. Like it's wonderful to work with them day by day. So can we strengthen our connections even more? Now individually, to be fair, Brian, when I think about the team, like I'm still thinking about the team, and obviously in every moment you look every player as an individual, and then we have our evaluation process. But not that I have in my head now, like, oh, this is what I want to see from Brian, or this is what I want to see from someone else. Like, yeah.
All right, Marko.
I got this last question. Do you think the results that you had in the last camp against France and Guinea, do you think the benefits of winning against, or drawing against the France and winning against Guinea has given your squad more belief and hope that you can go far in this Olympic tournament, that you can match up against anyone? Or do you think that on the reverse side of things, France now is aware of what you can do and your ability, and how, man, if we let off the gas a little bit, you'll come back. And so now you have a target on your back. We're more ready to play against you. And Guinea being like, all right, they beat us bad. We saw it. Now we're more motivated to play against you. If you had a scale, which one do you give a little bit more balance to or weight to?
Yeah, somehow it's always better to make good results. I don't know why. So yeah, it just feels better. So I think every time you make good results, it helps, to believe in what you're doing, and just not for the players, like for whoever is staff member, believe more in the process, So we have one sentence that we use when we started the process. We said we don't choose opponent, neither place or time to play our game. And how much they're going to adjust to us, how much they're going to see us differently than March, like, not sound like arrogant, but I really don't care. Like, it's their job. Like, we have to be sure that we do our job well. So that's like, if they're going to change approach, let them change it.
I absolutely love it.
I'm ready, Marko. Let's go.
I'm ready to run through a wall for Marko right now. We appreciate your time, of course. Thank you so much for being here. One last thing, though, before you go. Ahead of the 2006 World Cup, we had a message sent to our team from Clive Charles about how special the World Cup was, and to not let that moment pass us by, to really kind of soak it in and absorb all the little things that make the tournament special. So I wanted to give our Brian McBride and Charlie Davies an opportunity to tell you how special the Olympics was for them in 2008 and how you can pass on those words. So McBrizzle, take it away. What do you got for Marko here?
Please.
Jimmy, yeah, Marko, we actually talked about this, and about 2 months ago when I was chatting with you. And my message, Jimmy and Charlie, I think I might have told you this when I talked to Marko. And my message is, when you're preparing the team, and going back to when we were at the Olympics, 3 days before the opening ceremonies, I was dead set on not going and making sure that we were, preparing, getting the right rest, not driving 3 hours in a bus there, and then sitting around in a room for 4 hours, then walking and standing for another 2, and another 3 hour bus ride back. And so I suggested, and I think Charlie remembers this, I suggested, let's take a vote. And so we voted, and there was only 2 of us that said we're not going. And it was the best decision. I mean, the experience itself outweighed any of the worries or concerns about our fitness. And I know you know this, I'd mentioned that just make sure or think about, that experience that we'll never forget. I mean, that's something that I'll never forget. Been to 3 World Cups, completely different experience. Awesome. But that walking with your country is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we were like, come on, Dad, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because that's the moment it hits you that this is the Olympic Games and you're amongst the best athletes in the world. So we kindly persuaded Brian, and then he realized, okay, you guys are right. But what I will say is, in that 08 Olympics, you're also seeing Lionel Messi, you're seeing Sergio Aguero, you're seeing Ronaldo.
Oh, looks like
froze.
He froze right at Ronaldinho. Hopefully we'll get him back on. But Marko, yeah, I mean, we're so excited for you, and we're thrilled that you're leading our team, and we know we have so much talent. You're going to put it all together. So we're just going to assume Chuck's not going to come back on the show. We thank you so much. Oh, he's back. He's back.
All right. What I was going to say is that it's all of some of the elite players that ever play the game in this competition. You realize how important it is, but in terms of creating a brotherhood in this unforgettable experience of competing for a trophy, obviously not the World Cup, but it feels like the World Cup because you're representing your country. That's something that lasts with you forever, and it grows within the program. So come World Cup time, you have this bond, this unbreakable bond that only helps you in these type of tournaments, in these games. So you get to kind of put that together and be the mastermind, which is, you're changing lives and changing careers in one competition. So, we're all behind you. We wish you the best.
Yeah, it was a really long way of saying, Marko, no pressure. No
pressure. We don't have pressure. I want to say something just for the end. It was funny to look when you create your best teams, and 3 of you, 7-7-7, you didn't have a single player in how to say that you repeat in 3 teams, so completely different 7 player. I don't know if that's part of the game that you cannot copy paste the players.
Yeah.
It was a draft.
It was a draft.
Okay. So I want to say,
Marko,
there is a lot of talks about the roster and everything, but what you said, Charlie, at the end, I can promise you, no matter who is there, we'll give everything for this country and to represent United States in the best possible way.
I love it. Marko Mitrovic, everybody. Yes. You love to see it. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck in the Olympics. Good luck against Japan on June 11th. And make sure everybody that loves Call It What You Want, we're going live after the U.S.-Colombia game this Saturday, so it should be a lot of fun. And that's it. We're calling it a show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Marko and everybody else, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Later.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Guys.